Assalamu alaikum, family, peace, healing, and light. And welcome back to another episode of Healing with Angelica's podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And if you are new to the show, welcome, beautiful souls. I just wanted to say I missed you all. Oh my gosh, it feels so great to be back. I took some time away to observe Ramadan, a beautiful month of Ramadan, and which was very well needed for my personal care and rejuvenation. And now I am back and ready and energized. So before we start, I would like to also make sure you guys stay tuned because I will be coming with brand new episodes. So stay tuned and stay locked in. So moving forward on today's episode, I have an amazing guest joining me today, my divine sister, Quartney X, as we will be discussing today's topic, surrender. Quartney, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing well by the grace of Allah.
Yes, praise be to Allah. Sis. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, before we get started on today's episode, do you mind letting our audience know just a little bit more about you?
Yes, ma'am. So my name again is Quartney X. I'm here in Houston, Texas. I've been a member of the Nation of Islam since 2020. Praise be to Allah. I came from college actually, so didn't graduate. We'll talk about that later. But right now, I'm on my healing journey, just like my sister, also trying to encourage and inspire others to elevate mentally and spiritually.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I love it so much. Thank you so much for that, Courtney. And now let's get started on today's topic, surrender. You know, it's crazy. Like when I thought about this topic, I was like, whew. I said, I know I'm not the only one that's having a little bit issues with doing some surrendering.
Right.
Even though, in our minds we think we are surrendering, but sometimes um, our habits can make us think that we are, but we're really not. Right. So, um, also, please, my audience, if you guys have any questions for my beautiful guest Courtney today, please do not hesitate to ask any questions. Just please put it in the comment box below. So, for the content of our dialogue today, let's break down what does it mean to surrender. Surrender means to cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority, and in other contexts, to quit or to give in. Now, in this episode, we will channel more the spiritual aspect of surrendering and how once you submit yourself to your creator, you are now in a spiritual alignment with self, now being able to obtain peace. And that brings me to my first question for you, Miss Courtney. Do you mind telling us where your healing journey began with Allah and how surrendering was a part of that journey?
That's a good question. And of course, we could talk for days about that, so I'm going to make it short. But all in all, I was out living a life that I thought was all that there was. Me personally, I didn't really have a lot of guidance growing up. So growing into young adulthood, I was kind of just figuring things out on my own. And I don't know, I really didn't have a lot to look forward to. Like, yeah, a career is nice, but spiritually, I just felt void. And so I came to a place to where I was just tired and I was battling with depression, and there was a season where I was having suicidal thoughts like, oh, if I don't have a purpose, why am I here? And I reached a low point and I started seeking knowledge of self. I wanted to know, who am I? What makes me so significant? And what is it about this melanin that we have that people keep experimenting on? It was so many questions that I had from prior knowledge. And that journey down that rabbit hole led me right to the Nation of Islam. And as soon as I heard the truth, it was something deep within me that just knew that it was the truth. So literally, when I tell you that I dropped everything that I was doing at that time, everything that I was doing to follow the path that I believed that Allah had laid out for me. And that's how I got here.
No, well, praise be to Allah. Now, within that journey of becoming one with Allah, what was some, I would say, if you don't mind, what was some things that you experienced that was hard for you when it came to surrendering your will to do the will of Allah? Because I know, once you got um, that knowledge and enlightenment of knowledge of self, now it's about actually putting into work, actually putting into play, right? So, and within that, we have a hard time actually doing the work,
Right.
as far as that. So, like, what was some things that you can say, like, in the process of actually coming to one with self, coming to one with the lie, that was that was hard actually for you to do in regards to like surrendering?
Well, first, let me say that surrender is a process. Now, I know I was doing a little research, and there is a difference actually between submission and surrender. So, like,
Mm.
when I think of surrender, I think about how when we pray, we put our hands up. And even like, when people get stopped by the police and they're like, put your hands up, that is an
Mm-hmm.
act of surrender. And for me, it's been a process. So I don't want to say that, like, oh, it was a one and done type of thing. I'm actually in the process of surrender as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
So the difficulty factor, the biggest for me has been accepting the knowledge of self, because it's one thing to say, oh, we are gods and we are descendants of the Most High God, and I know that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still a daily reaffirming that for me and walking as if I know that, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, for example, right now I feel like Allah is calling me to a path that He has already predestined for me, but it takes the building of the confidence to actually walk that path and
Mm.
revert back to what's comfortable for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to go in a direction that I feel like, oh, I can do this, this is easy, and I'll have success there if He's calling me in another direction. That is an act of surrender. It's saying
Yes.
that I'm going to lay down whatever it is that I was doing, but also any random thought or idea, my own will that comes up that can be an impediment of my progress in His will for me.
Mm.
So yeah, that is definitely, it's just the act of releasing control and obeying and truly
Mm-hmm.
trusting that He has my best interest at heart.
Oh, say best interest.
Best,
Best interest.
that's real.
Yes,
That's
yes,
so
I
real.
love that. Thank you so much for that. And as you were talking, it was one word that you mentioned, and it's one word that I'm still, as I'm going through my healing journey, still trying to comprehend, and it's acceptance. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we all have a hard time accepting things for what it is, right? Having a hard time to accept that Allah really does have our best interests at heart. But because we don't see it, and as you mentioned, we don't have the confidence in Allah enough to believe that He has our best interests at heart, it ends up being a hindrance to us, right? So, ooh, dang, that was
That's
deep.
so good, right?
Dang, it do. I'm sorry, y'all. I be talking like, dang, girl. I be talking to myself like, ooh,
But
okay.
it's true. That I'm telling you, that's been my biggest struggle, especially
Mm-hmm.
from my background. It's like I've never been able to trust anybody, and I don't think that I realized that until I had to truly put my trust and my faith in Allah.
Mm.
I have to apologize to Him so much because I'm like, Allah, I know that you know where I've been, and you know that I've never been able to trust anybody. So naturally, it's like my instincts kick in, and it's like you got to take the reins and do something,
Yes.
not realizing like, no, if you execute His plan, you're going to reach success. You will be fine. Everything is going to be okay. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
something inside of me is like, really, I can trust. Like I can really put all of my trust in you, and you're not going to fail me.
Yes.
That's the truth. But it's that subconscious programming. We have to reprogram our.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely have to reprogram our mind. And just with you saying that, it just made me also think about, I dealt with a lot of anxiety. And what I realized with having anxiety is it was me lacking trust, lacking that trust. Um, However, once I started just accepting and trusting Allah, I noticed the anxiety fading away. And that's the beauty of actually surrendering, because you're not left with that burden. You're not, what are you worried about? You know? And that's what I had to ask myself. What are you worried about, Angelica? Is it that serious? Like, is
Right.
this not something that Allah can take care of? He said,
Mm,
cast your burdens on me, baby. Okay.
right.
So I'm like, you know what? That's what I'm gonna start doing. So I love that, Sister Quartney. Thank you so much. So that brings me to my first question. And again, audience, if you guys have any question, please feel free to put it in the comments below. Now, why do you believe, and maybe we talked about it a little bit um, just earlier, but why do you believe that people have such a hard time surrendering their will to do the will of God? I mean, I know if we can say it from a sense of how it's hard for us, but
Mm.
for a collective, why do you think it's hard for them to do that?
Well, I could bear witness, but I feel like it's one is fear of the unknown, and especially when you have not had an example, you've never seen anybody submit or surrender their will to do the will of Allah. You've never seen it. We have these
Mm-hmm.
books, both Bible and Quran, that give us these examples of amazing men and women of God who surrendered to Allah, but in
Mm-hmm.
real experiences, we don't see it. So it's kind of like, okay, that's a difficulty factor. And then we have our own will that's battling against his will, things that we want for ourselves, and we don't see how we're going to get it, which is what I
Mm-hmm.
hear the most from our people, um, especially finances. I promise you, that's a difficulty, we know. But our people, they have their own paths that they're on, and they're like, well, this is making me money. I don't know if I want to give this up
Mm.
to another direction. Another thing that really, really has been registering with me, because I hear the word submission used like a cuss word in conversations with our people. And
Lord.
I think it's like, again, that subconscious program
Mm-hmm.
because of where we come from, not even just our lifetime, but our ancestors and the things that they went through, submitting to our enemies, submitting to the slave master. So now it's like something in us, submission just don't feel right. It don't
Ooh.
sound right when they hear it. And so there's that. I think it's very much so mental. But the biggest thing I believe is the fear of the unknown makes it difficult.
Exactly, exactly. I know we kind of touched on it for real from the first question that I asked, but I truly believe it also, like you stated, just the subconscious programming, even just what our ancestors had to endure, being controlled by the white masses. Like, it ended up seeping into the generation afterwards. It's a mindset a mindset thing, and I believe that it always has been. But it's just about who we've been surrendering to. We have not been surrendering to the right person or the right things.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone is telling us to do something that in our minds this is all we know, it's going to be foreign to us. Like,
Right.
okay, well, hold on. Well, this is what I've been doing. So you telling me that I should just, do the will of Allah and, stop smoking, drinking, da da da. This been normal, whatever case
Right.
may be. But like I had said before, um, it's when we understand the peace that we obtain when we do surrender, as to why it is important for us to do that, so we can continue to grow and continue to heal. So I love that, Sister Quartney. Thank you so much. I see we have a question here from Jacola X. Jacola. I don't want to say he or she. I'm sorry. Jacola X has what advice would what advice would share for someone who has made promises to a lie and did not live up to it?
That's a good question.
Hmm.
So for me, I'm gonna answer that because it could go two ways. I know me. I made a promise to Allah when I first heard the teachings, and I laid everything down on that carpet because I didn't have a prayer rug yet. And I made some promises to Allah. Allah, I am never gonna do this again. I am never going back to that again. And I could say that I feel like I lived up to probably most of those promises, but can I say 100%? I don't know.
Mm.
So with that, that's one thing. For one, you ask Allah's forgiveness, ask His mercy, draw on that He is the most merciful, and then get back on the path. But
Mm.
also, there are sometimes where we say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this for Allah." Now, in that case, if you have not lived up to it, if you still have breath in your lungs, then that means that you still have an opportunity to live
Yes.
up to it. So we don't put a period on anything until that life story is finished, and it's not. So for that, I would draw on Allah's strength and draw on His wisdom and ask for His guidance. Because I know we talked about this earlier. Sometimes, you're striving to live up to something, a promise that you made to Allah, or even a promise He's made to you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get lost or we detour and end up somewhere we don't have no business being at, not intentionally. It's always about coming back to that point of where we left off to pick back up and go on the path of the promise that we made. It's really simple. Prayer and going back to submission and trying and striving to fulfill that promise. There's no
Mm.
period yet.
Yes, yes, I love that. Say no period. Okay,
No
as long as we
period yet.
still have breath in our lungs, at the end of the day, Jacole, I totally agree with my sister here, Quartney. You got to understand. We're striving. We're continuously striving daily. So because of the world that we're living in right now, we may find ourselves getting a little distracted, or we may find ourselves saying that we are going to do something or made a promise to a lie, and we seem to end up forgetting to do it, or whatever may have happened. But I truly believe that Allah knows the hearts of His people. So if your heart is pure, then He knows that it's not something that you just said like a hypocrite. It ain't something that you just say, but it's not in your heart. As long as it's in your heart, and as long as you always continue to go back and try to find that guidance within Allah, I truly believe that He will forgive you for that. Just always continue to go and strive on that path with Allah, because I'm telling you, like me and Sister Courtney, we talked earlier today, you know, we being real, we being honest. Hey, life stuff happens. Struggle is
Life
ordained.
be
Sometimes
lifing.
say life be lifing.
For real.
I'd be like, oh
Especially
gosh.
in this world. I don't think that we realize how big of a struggle we've picked up. It's like
Mm,
Allah's burden is light, but we're striving to submit to His will in a world where we're constantly being told to submit to the will of our enemies. So, yeah, like that in itself is a difficulty factor, and it requires a constant reminder. For me, I'm constantly having to remind myself. Allah's constantly having to remind me too, like, this
mm,
is what I need you to do in this moment, because 20 other things could have popped up and distracted me in, this world while I'm striving
exactly.
for Him. So,
Exactly. Thank you for that, Courtney. I love that. Thank you, Jacole. We appreciate that. Now this is not a question I see down here, but this just made me think of a question, right? Um, I just seen a comment on here. It said it's hard to submit when you don't know who you are. And I think
that is so true. Brother, that is so
yeah,
true.
that
I'm
right
up
there,
and down right now.
that right there, Courtney, please talk about this. Why is it so important to know who you are? Because if you don't, I'm telling you, I didn't know who I was. So how am I gonna submit to a lie if I don't even know who a lie is and who I am?
I feel
And
like
that's
I
the
was
thing.
that too.
We don't know who we are. So nobody's gonna, girl,
And
Okay,
then
we gonna
even
talk
when
about
we,
it.
like I said, it's easy to say we are gods. We are created in the image and likeness of the originator of the heavens and the earth. And we know that it's been drilled into our heads. But do we know that on an individual level in order
Mm.
to act on it in our own individual way? Sis. So let's say right now, I've literally been going through a trial where it's like Allah has given me an idea. Allah gives us vision. And if we move out on the idea, we move out on the vision, there is success on the other side of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't know who we are, then we would remain stagnant or get stuck at a standstill because it's like, I want to surrender. I want to submit to this. I want to take this step and be obedient. But how do I do it if I'm hindering my own progress?
Mm.
How do I do it if I'm doubting myself at every step? I take one step and then I'm like, I get frozen, So
Yes.
I have to
Mm-hmm.
remind myself of everything that Allah has said about me and not the programming that I already had. So there's multiple layers to that, and it's constantly we're discovering who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly.
I definitely agree with you on that, Courtney, and I thank Mr. Joy Road Eman for that because this is not even in the sense of people that are actually in a nation or actually know. I think that's a great like question in regards to like people who are still lost, still
Mm-hmm.
lost found, and the reason as to why they um may not have submitted their will to do the will of Allah yet because they don't know who they are, and that's the reason. And that's why I feel like me and Sister Courtney talked about this earlier. That's our job. We are continuing the work of our leader, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We're doing their job, and that's and actually helping them, assisting them in
Helping
them
best
work.
we can.
Yes, we are helpers in that cause because we want to help people know who they are. Help them become into the light, get into the light of Allah. So yes, sir. I love that. Thank you so much for that.
Sis,
Let me.
can I
Yes.
sing? Just in case anyone is watching
Yeah.
in the nation.
Go ahead, sis.
You are really, this is not just some spook teaching that we made up. No, we are truly direct descendants of the originators of the heavens and the earth. And for some of us, that's easier to grasp than others. But when you truly know who you are, there's a responsibility that comes with that because there's some power in that. It requires a change, but know that you are capable, know that you are able, know that you are worthy and you are valuable. Not it doesn't matter what the person next to you thinks of you. Remind yourself of what Allah thinks of you. You
Mm.
are his child. He created you in his image and likeness. And if you constantly remind yourself of that, then you will want to live up to that. You'll
Hmm.
want to live up to who you truly are and you won't settle for less than that. So that's all I wanted to say.
I love it. I love it. I love you, Sister Courtney. You,
Yeah, that's cute.
y'all understand? Me and her is like we're literally soul sisters. Like blood will make us closer because I feel her, she feel me, and that's the God in her. I
Praise be.
see. Yes, praise be to Allah. So I have another question here. How has this world's way of life hindered us as a people to receive the divine healing of God through submission?
Well, that's like a two-part question. Just in itself,
That's a whole
this
lecture.
right, this world's way of life has destroyed us internally and our external reality. So that in itself is a hindrance. It's like I can't even breathe living this world's way of life. We're constantly having to try and pick ourselves up from the grave, and we cannot do that without Allah's help.
Mm,
Another thing, when we are in submission to Satan's way, we diminish our own power to make a change in our reality. It's like whatever I heard a sister, she said, whatever you do outside of the will of God, you're gonna have to stay outside of the will of God to keep it, and that is real. So
Mm.
then when God comes for you, God wants you to do something that he put you on the earth to do. You can't even do it because you're submitted to the enemy and you don't want to give that up. So
Mm.
it's a lot. Repeat the last part of that question as well.
Yes, I had said, I gotta read the question over again. How has this world's way of life hindered us as a people to receive the divine healing of God through submission?
Okay, now for that, let me say I'm gonna use me as an example, but I know this applies to all of us. When we are outside of Allah's will, we're carrying a weight, a burden on our souls that sometimes we're not even conscious of.
Mm.
No, all those battles with depression and feeling like I didn't belong here, didn't want to be on the earth anymore, was a burden on my soul because I was operating outside of the will of Allah. And so when we decide to submit our will and it's truly in our hearts and we start moving in his direction, we take one step towards him, he takes 10 towards us. You know?
Mm.
And I remember the feeling when I laid everything out in prayer and I made those promises to Allah and I started to walk in his direction. Sis, when I tell you I got up, I felt like a whole different person.
Yes.
Literally overnight, I was changed in the
Yes.
twinkling of an eye. But the biggest change for me was the lifting that I felt spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
where I did not feel that burden anymore. I was on a high. It's a peace that you cannot get any other way. It also exposes deep rooted things that need to be healed that we're not conscious of when we're still operating in Satan's way.
Yes.
So I think we try to get healing without Allah, and that's why we are never healed.
Ooh.
We try to get it without him, and
Mm.
we're never there because he is the healer. It's true.
Okay. The healer. He is the healer. He is the way. So any other way you trying to go, baby, ain't gonna work.
No, you're gonna always get that redirect, like the GPS. Like, no, ma'am, come on, right on back over this way. You're not gonna get too far.
Like, where you going? Yes, yes, all praise. Due to a lot, Courtney. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
just keep
it's
laughing
funny
about it.
because it's so true and we
It's
know
true,
from
right?
experience. It's like you
Yeah.
try so many ways and you don't get anywhere. And then it's funny because like we'll think, okay, I healed, you knew something was wrong, and then you run right back into the same trial, the same lesson again with different people, different places, different experiences because you did not include Allah and submission to him in your plan for mental and spiritual progress. So
Mm. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yes, and it made me think, when all else fails, when
Islam.
all else fails, what you got, how they say, I forgot how they say it, but when all else fails, mm, nothing left is it. You got Islam. I
That's
mean,
right.
when all else failed with me, it was just divinely directed to me. Islam,
That's
you
right.
know, came, and I've never been the same since. And I'm so grateful for that because, like you said, we will continue to go in these repetitive cycles over and over and over again and wonder, why is this happening to me? Why I keep going through this? It's
Falling.
something is out of line, like something is
Mhm.
wrong. And it's funny because yesterday, like I was in this feeling, and I'm being a little personal here, but I was just in this state of like, okay, I always use my feelings as a navigator,
Mhm.
in regards to just how I am or what way to move, right? So, feeling some type of way, wherever the case may be. I always be like, okay, when I am out of balance with self, to me, I feel like I am out of balance with Allah.
Mhm.
So something is off right now with me and Allah's connection, and I have to regain that connection, regain that source, regain that power back. So, yeah, all praises be to Allah. And if you all are enjoying this episode just as well as I am, please show your support by donating today to Cash App $ Healing with Angelica to help sustain future episodes just like this. I will also leave more info to donate on the screen below. And I love you all. And let's get back to today's amazing topic, surrender with Quartney X. So, looks like here we have another question. Give me a moment. Martin Acapulco. We have, I hope I said it right, so please forgive me. What always baffles me are the measures Satan has taken to keep us in this shallow grave of darkness. What are your thoughts about Allah choosing us to resurrect the dead?
I just want to know, who do they think I am? How am I qualified to answer these questions?
That was a, you see, I just went back like, I don't know why, it almost brought tears in my eyes. That was a beautiful question.
And I think it's because none of us feel worthy of being chosen. How could you? How could we feel worthy or qualified to be chosen by Allah as His chosen vessels? I will say this. When it comes to resurrecting the dead, it requires a level of humility. To reach out to a dead people and try to lift them up into the knowledge of themselves requires a lot of humility. And somebody who thinks that they're already on top of the world would not be qualified if it was determined by the factor of humility. So with us being the bottom rail, the Bible says that He would make the last the first, the tail will become the head. Who is closer to the bottom than we are? Not anybody, honestly, in the world is closer to the bottom rail than us, the Black people of America. So I know for me, I've been through hell. Like, I have been through a lot of stuff, but because of that, I'm able to connect with people who are still there, right? It makes it a lot easier for me to relate to and connect with people who have been through similar experiences or worse, because I don't see myself as being above them. And so I think that is why Allah qualifies us. It's not that He chose us because we are qualified, but there are things within us that He can mold and work with in order to qualify us to be used in the resurrection of the dead. And those are my thoughts.
I'm sitting over here speechless, Sister Quartney. Like, that question was like very profound, and then like your answer was beautiful. So all praises due to Allah. I love that. Thank you so much for that question, Martin. Now, I'm really just baffled about that question because, like you said, like we don't even know our value, and to know that Allah, God, looks at us the way He does, and to help in a resurrection of our people of the dead. Oh my, that is a work within itself.
It's baffling. Like she said, it baffles me. Every day, sis. Every day I'm having to remind myself, like, because those self-doubts and insecurities start to kick in when you're striving to please Allah and do things in His way. But then it's like, I have to remind myself every time a thought creeps up, like, it doesn't matter what you think about yourself. There is something that Allah sees about you. And if He gave you the vision, He gave it to you because He sees something that you cannot see. So it's in your best interest to walk like you know that Allah knows something about you. Even though you're humble enough to not see it in yourself, it's something there.
I love that. Walk like you know. Oh, praise be to Allah, sis. Thank you so much for that. This is so beautiful. I'm so grateful. Um, yes. So I'm gonna go to my next question. Give me a moment. So, okay. So, do you believe, and audience, if you have any more questions, so feel free to put it in the comments below before the end of the show. Now I have here, do you believe in order for us to be spiritually attuned with self, we will have to submit ourselves to our creator? If so, why?
Absolutely. And it's because you cannot separate self from Allah and be sane. Like, you cannot. It's like saying I'm separating myself from myself and expecting to be in my right mind. There's no way. It's not possible. It doesn't matter how cute people make it look. Because I could raise my hand and say, I looked real good when I was living in Satan's world on the outside. But nobody saw when I was sliding down the wall crying
Mm.
and on my face and depressed and calling suicide hotlines, even though when everybody else saw me, they like, oh yeah, she looks good. I wasn't centered and balanced by a lot. So you cannot separate yourself from the God who created you and remain in your right mind, because how would you even know what you were put here for or to do?
Mm.
It's like trying to operate something without the owner's manual or the directions or the instructions. And we're real good at doing that. I've seen, especially our brothers. I remember my papa, he used to buy stuff and he would throw the owner's manual out and just get to trying to put it together himself. And it would be a mess. He would drive us clear to another state with no map on the way back. And now we're lost, stopping, trying to ask people for help. Like, can we just get a map? Like, we just need the guidance and we can get there smoothly.
Exactly.
Their problems causing me distress is because we're trying to do it without the owner's manual. So we can't function without Allah, and we're
Mm-hmm.
fooling ourselves. We think that we can.
Oh, I had to laugh at that one because that is so true. Like, what? And it's funny because life is an example within itself. Like, how in the world are we going to be able to function without the proper guidance?
Right.
Right? Like, we have the Quran, which is, we already know, the perfect guidance. We can tap into the Bible here and there, but we know. But we have something here for us. Allah God put us here with a duty, with a responsibility, right? Do you not think that He didn't give us directions? He just put us on the earth and was like, hey, y'all go fend for
Go
yourself.
for it. You're
Go
on your
for
own.
it. Like, no. So it is like, when you do come into the knowledge of self, you start to realize that everything like is just, what's that word? Common sense. Like, it's like, duh, like, why would we? So yes, I love that our phrases be to
Man.
Allah, Quartney. Thank you for that. Um Now, my last question here for you. What advice do you have for someone who would like to let go and surrender to whatever dis-ease that may be hindering them, but is having a hard time doing so?
So specify when you say dis-ease. Are you referring to like a spiritual disorder or like what do you mean?
Yeah, so honestly, when I thought about that, I was thinking about just obstacles, if it's physical element, mental element, whatever it is that may be bothering them. I'm gonna just say a burden, right? Whatever burden that is hindering them. Um, what
From
advice? I'm sorry, sis. What'd you say?
You said hindering them from submission.
I'm gonna read it again. What advice do you have for someone who would like to let go and surrender to whatever is burdening? I'm gonna say burdening them, that may be hindering for them, but is having a hard time doing so.
Okay, let me say this because I heard the minister say, and this was in the New World Order lecture, and I'm not quoting him exactly, y'all. My memory is still a little foggy, but he was referring to how our mental, our physical, our financial disorders are the result of a spiritual disorder, which in reality is from our disconnection to Allah. So, like I said, we don't have balance really in any area of our lives
Mm-hmm.
properly without Him. So it's honestly like, how can we let anything hinder us from that submission when the submission itself is the answer? So don't let anything stand in your way. I don't care about any mental disease. All of that can be put into divine order by your submission to Allah, because you become the friend of Allah. He wants the best for you. He does not make promises with the intention of failing us. He does not watch us in our surrender and just be like, oh, okay, that was cool. That's good. No, he takes us and guides us in every area of our lives from that
Mm-hmm.
point forward. But it is a constant surrender, a constant submission.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot lose in the way of Allah. Everything that is hindering you now that seems like a hindrance, it'll start to look so small when you include him in it.
Mm.
And you'll still have to go through a process, but I mean, what better friend, what better guide can you have than Allah?
Mm. You got a friend in me.
Mm-hmm. That's the best friend.
Yes, yes, yes. All praises due to Allah, Quartney. Thank you so much, Quartney, for joining me today to discuss this amazing topic, surrender. I would also like to thank my amazing audience and Healing Tribe for joining us today. I pray that this episode was informative, valuable, and healing to you all. Also, be sure to share, like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes on any of your favorite podcast stations. Closing the Gap Broadcast Network on Facebook and YouTube, and Healing with Angelica podcast on Facebook and YouTube to help get the message out to those in need of healing and light. Also, if you are ready to start your healing journey, I am offering a 90-minute consultation call that will include a copy of my ebook, Heal Yourself for Free. More information will be in today's show notes, including information for today's amazing guest, my beautiful sister, Quartney X. Now, Quartney, before we end today's beautiful show, do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
Mm-hmm. I would say that right now, I feel like we're in a season where Allah is transitioning a lot of us as individuals, but He's also doing a thing in the earth. So this is the best time for you to align yourself with Him so that you can align yourself with purpose, but constantly remind yourself about who Allah says that we are.
Mm.
Do not allow this world to tell you who you are. Constantly reaffirm your value, your worth in His sight, and walk the path that He has already predestined for you before you were even in the womb of your mother. Before those of us who are in the nation were in the womb of the Nation of Islam in our processing code. Okay? There was something already assigned to our lives. So walk, like I said, walk like you know what Allah said about you. And that is it.
Yes, yes, yes. All praises due to Allah. Thank you so much, Courtney. This was such an amazing show. And I just want to say thank you all for you guys' support. I love you all. I want to say thank you to the Closing the Gap Broadcast Network. Sending love and shout out to Student Minister James Muhammad. I love you so much. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my platform also on the Closing the Gap Broadcast Network as well to continue the spread of healing and light to those that are in need. Again, thank you, Quartney, so much for even giving me your time and being able to, share our good words in regards to surrendering. So I love you all, and we leave you all as we came. Assalamu alaikum, peace, healing, and light.
Mm.